When people think of the king of the late Cretaceous, the Tyrannosaurus rex is usually the first dinosaur that comes to mind. After all, it did possess an array of formidable weapons and features that made it a nearly unstoppable force within its home of North America. However, the T-Rex was by no means the only large theropod to exist during the late Cretaceous. In fact, just 30 million years before it, if you traveled down to South America, you would come into contact with a theropod that was equally ferocious and nearly just as titanic as the T-Rex. This was the Giganotosaurus. This hellish theropod has seen a massive rise in fame recently, and it's not exactly hard to see why, as it truly was a remarkable dinosaur. A fact that didn't go unnoticed by paleontologists when it was discovered in 1993. The original specimen was actually found by an amateur fossil hunter who found a fragmented skull and post-cranial skeleton within the Badlands of Patagonia, Argentina. Despite his limited experience, he knew right away that he had found an absolute unit, and had the remains sent to paleontologists who estimated that the specimen, which would become the holotype, was a 70% complete, mature individual. Like the fossil hunter, they too were shocked by the size of this theropod and quickly gave it a name that reflected its monstrous size, Giganotosaurus carolini, meaning Carolini's giant southern lizard. However, the size of this monster did not just fascinate its founders, as its discovery quickly led to a rekindled interest in large theropods across the globe, and even led to the resurgence of a debate which sought to answer how large could theropods truly get. Within this debate, it became very clear that the Giganotosaurus was one of the largest theropods and predators to ever live. But despite its 70% complete remains, no one could agree with just how big it truly was. And to this day, even with additional material, there is not a complete agreement to its body size. Although, no one denies that this was an epic beast, with the most current research estimating that an adult would have measured a staggering 43.3 feet, or 13.2 meters from head to tail, while standing 13 feet or 4 meters tall at the hips. This implied that the Giganotosaurus was about as tall as an adult T-Rex and actually outclassed it in terms of length. However, the T-Rex does still hold an edge in body mass, as it was the more stockier of the two and possessed a wider torso. Yet, the Giganotosaurus was by no means a lightweight, and individuals are believed to have weighed between 8 and 8.4 tons, with some even speculating that larger individuals would have exceeded these numbers. And at this weight, the Giganotosaurus was not only the largest predator that South America has ever seen, but it was also the second largest terrestrial carnivore to ever exist, only being slightly overshadowed by the Tyrant King, T-Rex. To put the Giganotosaurus's extreme size into context, the polar bear, which is the current largest land predator on Earth, is significantly smaller, with this mighty theropod being over 10 times heavier than the average-sized male polar bear. And what makes the Giganotosaurus all the more impressive is that many paleontologists agree that the largest individuals are yet to be discovered, as some fragmented remains have provided indications of larger specimens. One such find involved giant teeth which were 8% larger than those of the holotype. Paleontologists estimated that these teeth belonged to a Giganotosaurus that had a 1.95 meter or 6.4 foot long skull, which, if accurate, would make it the largest known theropod skull from a length standpoint. Unfortunately, without more remains, it's impossible to tell how big this individual really was. But what is clear is that the Giganotosaurus as a genus possessed titanic skulls, with paleontologists believing that the average one would have come in at around 1.8 meters or 6 feet long. Like its body size, these measurements meant that the skull was longer than that of the T-Rex, yet lighter in weight. This lighter and agile build granted the Giganotosaurus an improved level of flexibility when maneuvering its head around. However, it also led to a weaker bite when compared to that of the Tyrannosaurus. Yet, this didn't detract from the deadliness of this super predator, as it didn't rely on a crushing bite to kill like the T-Rex, but rather a slicing one. The Giganotosaurus was equipped with over 70 large teeth that were sideways compressed and highly serrated. With this dentition, it didn't need much to easily cut and slice through huge chunks of flesh, incurring rapid blood loss in a variety of prey. The Giganotosaurus also had another feature outside of its teeth that made it a force to be reckoned with: its neck. It had a robustly built neck that was proportionally large for its body, and lended itself to making a bite even deadlier, as the support the neck offered allowed the Giganotosaurus to viciously twist and jerk prey around during messy fights, shearing off more chunks of flesh without having to worry about injuring itself. Although, before the Giganotosaurus could dish out its hellish bite, it had to first capture a victim, and how it did this is a question that has created much debate. For a long time, it was thought that the Giganotosaurus had a good build for running, and because it had very long and powerful legs, would have been a fast sprinter, with a 2001 study estimating a theoretical max speed of 31 miles or 40 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest theropods to ever exist. But this idea was challenged when new research proposed that the Giganotosaurus was simply too big to run, and instead was more of a speedwalker that did not participate in high-speed pursuits. Juveniles, however, were probably capable of running, but this age window of being able to sprint was likely limited, as studies on the Giganotosaurus have revealed that its metabolism was comparable to that of a 1-ton mammalian carnivore, indicating that it was a rapid grower. Though, this speedwalking conjecture didn't mean much for the Giganotosaurus, as paleontologists believe it wasn't interested in small fleeted foot prey anyways, rather titanic sauropods and other large herbivores. Armed with its immense size and deadly jaws, even the largest of sauropods may have had to fear the Giganotosaurus as juveniles, and adults were perhaps not safe either, as unfortunately for them, the threat of Giganotosaurus was possibly multiplied through pack hunting. This notion doesn't actually stem from the Giganotosaurus, but rather a very close relative, the Mapusaurus. This too was a South American theropod that fascinated scientists as multiple individuals were found together. These individuals were of different ages and sizes, leading some to believe that they were part of a pack, instead of a random gathering. And because they were close relatives of the Giganotosaurus, these paleontologists think that it must have been a pack hunter as well. Hunting in packs would have also made sense given the amount of sauropods that shared its environment, and would have made fully grown adults a possible kill. If it wasn't a social creature and did hunt by itself, this nightmare was still the undisputed apex predator of its environment. A fact that isn't surprising as it belonged to an infamous group of theropods known for becoming some of the most dominant Cretaceous predators, the Carcharodontosauridae. Being a member of this family meant that the Giganotosaurus was an allosaurid that was more closely related to the Carcharodontosaurus than either Synraptor or Allosaurus. Additionally, it was placed in a new subfamily named after it, the Giganotosaurinae, where it would have been joined by its South American relative, the Mapusaurus. Many in this family grew to giant sizes, but none rivaled the Giganotosaurus, who was by far the largest member. However, the Giganotosaurus wasn't just all bronze and no brain. As it didn't just have the largest size, it also possessed the biggest brain, which was proportionally bigger when compared to other members such as the Carcharodontosaurus. This has led to the idea that it wasn't just some dumb big brute, but perhaps an intelligent large theropod, giving it one more advantage over its prey. Regardless, brains or not, the Giganotosaurus definitely had more than enough tools to completely rule its ecosystem of South America. Specifically, fossils have shown that it inhabited what is present-day Argentina during the early Cenomanian age of the late Cretaceous, approximately 99.6 to 97 million years ago. Its habitat was warm and experienced distinct dry seasons as it was part of an ancient desert that existed during the time. However, the habitat of the Giganotosaurus was a haven in this desert, as it was peppered with lakes, rivers, and streams, with some parts of this ecosystem resembling a swamp. Life was extremely diverse here, and many dinosaurs called it home. Some of these included the sauropods Limaesaurus, Nopsospondylus, Rheosaurus, and Andysaurus. Contrary to popular belief, right now there is no conclusive evidence that the Argentinosaurus lived alongside the Giganotosaurus, although a massive unnamed titanosaur has been found, leading some to believe that it was either a very close relative or the Argentinosaurus itself. There were also non-sauropod herbivores in the form of unidentified ornithopods, which included an iguanodont, Other theropods in the area existed as well, including the Extinctions, Buitreraptor, Alnochetter, and 2 other unnamed theropods. While carnivores were clearly plentiful, none held a candle to the Giganotosaurus, with the second largest carnivore in the environment being only half the length of the king and 10 times lighter. This meant that the other predators probably had different niches and preferred smaller, lighter prey, while leaving the large herbivores to the Giganotosaurus. These small prey could have included the non-dinosaur animals that were present, such as pterosaurs, turtles, fish, primitive snakes, frogs, notosuchians, rhynchocephalians, and even mammals. Late Cretaceous Argentina was truly ruled by the Giganotosaurus, but not even the second largest terrestrial predator of all time can last forever, as it seemingly disappeared some 97 million years ago. As of now, there is no good idea of what led to its demise, and no extensive research into the topic has been done. But hopefully, as time passes, we can find out what took down one of the most intimidating predators and dinosaurs to ever live. The dinosaurs, one of the mightiest groups of animals to ever live. They ruled the Earth essentially unchallenged for over 140 million years, spanning the complete duration of the Mesozoic era. No other groups of animals were able to challenge them on land, and it was only when a giant asteroid struck Earth 66 million years ago that things changed. The impact event was catastrophic for all life, but dinosaurs were especially affected, no thanks to their large sizes, and within a short amount of time, all non-avian dinosaurs were no more. However, this wasn't the end for the terrible lizards, as one group managed to persist: the avian dinosaurs, aka birds. This group of familiar animals are indeed dinosaurs, and specifically belonging to the theropod clade. Today, they are found throughout the world and are represented by over 10,000 living species, which is no doubt very impressive. Albeit, no living species of bird possesses the imposing presence that the non-avian dinosaurs had. However, not long after the demise of the non-avian dinosaurs, there was actually a family of carnivorous birds that emerged that came alarmingly close to becoming just as terrifying as many of their predecessors. This menacing group of avian dinosaurs mainly resided in South America and created a powerful dynasty that lasted for tens of millions of years. These were the Forest Racids. This family of flightless avian dinosaurs are more commonly referred to as the terrorbirds, and rightfully so. All members possessed large hooked beaks, powerful necks, and razor-sharp talons. Additionally, multiple species of this group managed to grow to absolutely massive sizes, with a few even being some of the largest Cenozoic predators to have ever lived in South America, as well as being the largest carnivorous birds of all time. However, they didn't start off as giants. Rather, they came from humble beginnings, with their first known member, the Paleosolopterus. This primitive terrorbird originated in what is today Brazil, and existed roughly 53 million years ago during the early Eocene, a time when the Earth was both extremely hot and experienced heavy rainfall. It was one of the smallest and slenderest members of its family, with adults only achieving a height of 1 meter or 3 feet, which is about the same size as a stork. Its small size, though, granted it an enhanced level of agility and speed that allowed it to become a successful predator in its environment. But it was likely not an apex predator, as it was greatly outsized by other carnivores in its area, which included a variety of crocodilians and snakes. Fortunately for the terrorbirds, and less so for others, they would not stay small for very long. And 3 million years after their first known member, a second genus would pop up that was 50% larger than its ancestor, the Aleutherornis. This size increase was extremely impressive, but this bird's true claim to fame is its nationality, so to speak, as it is the only known member of its family to have lived outside of the Americas, with its remains being located in both France and Switzerland. Its larger stature made it quite the killer, and it's thought to have possibly preyed on even small horses and primates. It was no doubt extremely successful in Europe, but despite its success, it was still in the Americas, not Europe, where the terrorbirds would eventually get out of hand in a scary way. The Oligocene in particular is when this family really reached new heights, as it was then that the first giant terrorbirds truly emerged. With the arrival of a new genus, the Prehistoric, which inhabited Brazil. It was an absolute giant compared to older terror birds, with males standing 1.4 meters or 4 foot 7 inches tall. Its bones were also extremely robust, resulting in it being quite heavy, weighing around 180 kilograms or 400 pounds, making it heavier than the largest living bird today, the ostrich. It was also the largest known terrestrial predator from its environment, leading to the consensus that it was no doubt an apex predator. Paleontologists believe that it would have used its clawed feet to kick and slash prey in order to cripple them, before finally dispatching victims by jabbing them with its large and sharp beak. It's also been suggested to have scavenged when the opportunity arose, a trait that some think extend to all members of this family, including the later terror birds, some of which once again reach greater sizes than their predecessors. Perhaps the three most famous of these later giants were the Titanus, Kelenkin, and Brontornis, two of which were also the largest of the terror birds. These three units, like most other members, resided in the Americas, and spanned from the early Miocene all the way to the early Pleistocene. Titanus, the youngest of these three, was also the smallest, though still taller than the vast majority of any bird, with large specimens standing at 2 meters or 6.6 feet in height. Unlike most of its relatives, this bird lived in what is now the US, including the states of Texas, Florida, and California. This makes the Titanus the only large South American predator to have migrated north during the Great American Interchange. As a result, it routinely interacted and competed with a mix of North American predators such as the Smilodon and the short-faced bear. However, thanks to its size, it's not believed to have been actively hunted by either and was still an apex predator within its ecosystem, which consisted of dense forests inhabited by over 100 known species. Yet, it was perhaps not as much of a dominant force as the Kelenkin or Brontornis, which rivaled each other for the crown of being the largest terror bird ever. It's now thought that the Kelenkin was the tallest of this family, measuring 3 meters or 9.8 feet tall, while possibly weighing 250 kilograms or 550 pounds, making it about the same weight as a male grizzly bear. The Brontornis, on the other hand, wasn't as tall, with adults being about 2.8 meters or 9.2 feet tall. But it was likely heavier thanks to its more robust and stockier build, with individuals weighing anywhere from 770 pounds to 880 pounds, or 350 to 400 kilograms, making it not only the heaviest terror bird, but also the heaviest carnivorous bird of all time, and the 4th heaviest bird overall. There's only one problem though. It may not have been a terror bird, or even a carnivore. Certain paleontologists have questioned these two assumptions about it, referencing the lack of its remains and its toe claws, which bear some resemblance to those found in herbivorous birds. So until more remains are found, it's hard to say what this bird conclusively was. Although, in recent times, there has been some pushback that cited certain features that the Brontornis possessed, which are seen exclusively in terror birds, such as the shape of its thoracic vertebrae, leading most to consider that it actually was a predatory terror bird. However, due to its immense weight, it was still quite different than other terror birds, including the more nimble Kelenkin and Titanus, likely inhabiting open landscapes rather than forests, while relying more heavily on ambushes to capture its prey, as it developed slower locomotion to accommodate its enormous body mass. The Kelenkin and Titanus, though, appear to have been extremely fast runners based on their legs, which, much like ostriches, had short thigh bones with elongated bones in the lower leg and foot. Paleontologists believe that both of these species and many other terror birds could have exceeded 30 miles or 48 kilometers per hour at max speed, making them faster than the fastest recorded human ever, Usain Bolt. Their formidable speed allowed both of these giants to easily run down all of their prey. And despite their large sizes, it's usually thought that terror birds specialized in smaller prey such as small rodents, mammals, and reptiles rather than megafauna. However, recent research has shown that the largest terror birds may have actually been able to take down large prey as well. This idea stems from the discovery of two kinds of skulls within the family, the Celopterine skull type and the terror bird skull type, the latter of which is only seen among the biggest members and is mainly characterized by being more rigid. This rigidity resulted in higher bite forces and pecking power, leading to the belief that these giant nightmares may have been capable of taking down larger mammalian prey. Along with deadly beaks and claws, this family had yet another advantage that assisted in their reign: their senses. Their eyesight and hearing in particular were quite potent. as shown by studies on their brain cases and skulls. Regarding eyesight, it is believed that while they didn't have as sharp vision as eagles or hawks do, they still had excellent vision and possessed the crucial ability of being able to clearly see prey in both extremely bright areas and dark areas. As for their hearing, their inner ears were developed in such ways that suggested that the terror birds were amazing at hearing low frequencies, which they could use to track and locate prey. Their hearing was so good that they could actually hear footsteps of small animals that were completely hidden by undergrowth, and their hearing is currently believed to have been one of the main ways terror birds found their prey. It was thanks to this hearing, eyesight, and many other traits that the terror birds were able to become such dominant predators for millions of years. Unfortunately for them, being the largest carnivorous birds of all time wasn't enough, and eventually they found their reign fading into oblivion. Currently, it's not completely understood why the terror birds went extinct, but many ideas on the subject have sprung up throughout the years. Traditionally, it was thought that the Great American Interchange that occurred 2.7 million years ago was the main catalyst, as it introduced carnivorous dogs, bears, and cats from North America, which of course drastically increased competition for the terror birds. However, some have questioned this conjecture, as new studies have shown that the timing of this event doesn't correlate well with the extinction of the terror birds. Furthermore, most terror birds and all their prime South American competitors were actually already long gone by the time most placental predators showed up in South America, casting even more doubt. The Titanus itself is also used as evidence against the competition extinction hypothesis, as it successfully expanded northward during the interchange and was able to coexist with big canids and felines for millions of years. As a result of these counter-arguments, a new idea has come forth, which suggests that while competition alone probably did not wipe the terror birds away, it probably had a stacking effect along with other factors, which possibly included climate change, as from the Oligocene to the Pliocene, the world slowly cooled towards a series of ice ages. This may have had more of an impact on terror birds than North American carnivores, as the former were better adapted for more tropical environments rather than cooler ones, which, along with an influx of competition, may have been the final nail in the coffin. That being said, the terror birds did do their best to persist to the very bitter end, and were around for far longer than originally given credit for, with some smaller species being dated to only 96,000 years ago, a sharp contrast to the original extinction estimates of 1 million years ago. And they may have survived even longer, as a set of fossils attributed to an unidentified terror bird belongs to a formation dated to 18,000 years ago, which if true, meant that terror birds died out just a couple thousand years before humans arrived in South America. Alas, this does mean that humans never got to witness firsthand the epicness of these beasts, but perhaps this is for the best. And after all, they still had to deal with another extinct family of very large birds of prey known as the Teratorns. Yet that is another story.